Senator Ron Wyden just did something that few members of Congress have the courage to do. He accused the Treasury Secretary of potentially breaking the law, and he laid out the evidence in plain English. The issue is the audit immunity granted to President Trump and his family through a secret addendum to a settlement.
The audit immunity grant in the addendum is against the law.
Wyden has been digging. He asked Secretary Scott Bessent about the timing of events. Bessent canceled contracts with Booz Allen Hamilton 3 days before Trump filed his $10 billion lawsuit against the IRS. Bessent said it was a coincidence. He said he had no knowledge of the lawsuit in advance. Wyden did not look convinced.
I want here, Mr. Secretary, to follow up on your answers about the Booz Allen contracts. Now, you said you didn't know about Trump's lawsuit in advance. So I gather that for you it was a coincidence. You canceled the contracts 3 days before Trump's lawsuit?
That would be correct, sir.
Then Wyden made his closing statement. He said almost all of the big questions about the immunity remain unanswered. He said he is going to keep digging. And then he said the words that should terrify everyone in the room. Somebody broke the law.
We're going to keep digging into this. I know that I'm going to. And my own view is that somebody broke the law.
Wyden laid out the two possibilities. Either Bessent or the CEO of the IRS were illegally involved in the audit immunity granted to Trump through the addendum. Or if Bessent is telling the truth that Treasury and the IRS were not involved, then the acting Attorney General does not have the authority to settle tax disputes that were not referred to the Department of Justice. Either way, somebody broke the law.
Because acting Attorney General Blanche doesn't have the authority to settle tax disputes that may have not been referred to DOJ. And my own view is that as we keep digging, somebody broke the law.
Wyden said he is determined to work with colleagues on both sides of the aisle to get to the bottom of it. He said this immunity is something that nobody else in America gets. That is the important point. Every other American is subject to audit. The Trump family is not. That is not a coincidence. That is a crime. Let's watch.
Thank you. We are informed that Senator Marshall may be back. Senator Wyden has asked for a second 5-minute round, and as the ranking member, I've agreed to that. So, Senator Wyden, why don't you begin, and then if Senator Marshall shows, he'll be the final.
Mr. Chairman, I've got one question. I want here, Mr. Secretary, to follow up on your answers about the Booz Allen contracts. Now, you said you didn't know about Trump's lawsuit in advance. So I gather that for you it was a coincidence. You canceled the contracts 3 days before Trump's lawsuit?
That would be correct, sir.
Okay, and you didn't talk to anybody outside Treasury? I assume that's what you're saying as well?
Again, as I said, I had no knowledge.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a brief closing statement with respect to where we are, because I think that this has been a critically important meeting, and what it has showed is that almost all of the big questions with respect to immunity from audits remain unanswered. And my own view is that we're going to keep digging into this. I know that I'm going to. And my own view is that somebody broke the law. Either Mr. Bessent or Frank Bisignano, the CEO of the Internal Revenue Service, were illegally involved in the audit immunity granted to Trump through the addendum. Or if Mr. Bessent continues to claim that Treasury and the IRS were not involved, the audit immunity grant in the addendum is against the law because acting Attorney General Blanche doesn't have the authority to settle tax disputes that may have not been referred to DOJ. So that's where we are. It's one or the other. And my own view is that as we keep digging, somebody broke the law, and I'm determined to work with my colleagues of both sides of the aisle to get to the bottom of this, because we are wrapping up with virtually all of the big issues with respect to how this immunity, which basically nobody else in America gets. That's the important point. came into being, and we've got to get to the bottom of it and make sure that it's corrected and it doesn't happen again. And I thank you for the extra time.
And we've never seen anyone in America, they have their tax returns, the tax returns of all their employees leaked without an apology, Senator. Would you like to apologize today?
I was very much at the bottom of saying that it was critically important that enforcement action be taken, and I worked with my colleagues on both sides to move quickly. That's the fact.
Yeah, then why did Mr. Littlejohn, why was he only charged in 2 out of 3 potential charges? It was, he got off easy.
With that,
This hearing is a masterclass in how to frame an investigation. Senator Ron Wyden did not have time to ask new questions. He used his closing statement to lay out the case that someone broke the law, and he did it in a way that anyone can understand. The central fact is the audit immunity. The Trump family cannot be audited. No other American has that protection. Wyden called it the important point. It is. The entire case rests on that one fact. The government gave one family a benefit that no other taxpayer receives. That is not a coincidence. That is not a mistake. That is either corruption or incompetence. Either way, it is a crime. Wyden laid out the 2 possibilities. The first possibility is that Bessent, or the CEO of the IRS, were illegally involved in granting the immunity. That would mean that the people in charge of the tax system used their power to protect the president. That is a crime. The second possibility is that Bessent is telling the truth. If Treasury and the IRS were not involved, then the acting attorney general acted alone. But the acting attorney general does not have the authority to settle tax disputes that were not referred to the Department of Justice. That means the addendum is illegal. Either way, somebody broke the law. Wyden did not accuse Bessent directly. He said either Bessent or the IRS CEO were illegally involved, or if they were not, then Blanche acted without authority. He left the door open, but the implication is clear. Someone in the administration committed a crime. Wyden is going to find out who. Bessent's response was a deflection. He asked Wyden to apologize for the leak of Trump's tax returns. He asked why a contractor was only charged on 2 out of 3 potential charges. That is not a defense. That is an attempt to change the subject. The leak was a crime. The contractor should be punished. But that has nothing to do with the audit immunity. The leak happened. The immunity is a separate issue. Bessent knows that. He is trying to muddy the waters. Wyden did not take the bait. He said he worked to ensure enforcement action was taken. He did not apologize. He did not defend the leak. He stayed focused on the immunity. That is how you win an argument. You do not let the other side change the subject. You keep bringing it back to the central fact. The Trump family cannot be audited. No other American has that protection. Someone broke the law to give it to them. The timing of the Booz Allen contracts is suspicious. Bessent canceled the contracts 3 days before Trump filed his lawsuit. Bessent said it was a coincidence. Wyden did not say it was not. He said the questions remain unanswered. That is the point of oversight. You ask questions, you follow the evidence, you do not assume guilt, but you also do not assume innocence when the facts point in a different direction. Wyden's closing line is the most important part of the hearing. He said he is determined to work with colleagues on both sides of the aisle to get to the bottom of this. He is not making this a partisan issue. He is not attacking Republicans. He is attacking corruption. The immunity benefits Trump. Trump is a Republican. But the principle is bigger than one party. No American should be above the law. If a Democrat had given immunity to a Democratic president, Wyden would be just as angry. That is the difference between a partisan and a public servant. Wyden is a public servant. The investigation is not over. Wyden said he is going to keep digging. He is going to work with colleagues on both sides. He is going to get to the bottom of it. The American people deserve to know how the immunity came into being. They deserve to know who broke the law. And they deserve to know that it will not happen again. Wyden is determined to give them those answers. That is his job. That is what oversight looks like.